All right, 2024, it's been insane. Here we go. "2023 has been an absolutely insane year for me. Truth be told, I ended up derailing it pretty heavily. That 2023 was set up for me to work super hard on my business. And if you remember, I was planning to make 4 of these books. You can see the Magnetic Brand Workbook there. But then in July, I kind of got a little bit derailed. And that is honestly what this video is going to be about. It's not just a look back at 2023, it's also a look into what absolute insanity I'm going to be unable to predict in 2024. But before I get too far into my reflections of 2023 and moving forward into 2024, I just want to remind you all that we started a Patreon for this channel, and I am so incredibly ecstatic that we're already at 535, and we actually have one particular community intelligence platform that has agreed to underwrite the channel. So I just want to say a special thank you to everyone at Common Room. We have a really special opportunity, and you're gonna get paid for it, because this link actually sends you $50 if you set up just a 1-hour consultation with Common Room. And truly, genuinely, I've been using Common Room for almost 1.5 years now. I've just been on the free plan. I cannot recommend it enough. Let's jump into a reflection of 2023. Now, the way that I tend to do this, and unfortunately I've been a little bit late on it, I've been a little bit busy. I tend to look back at the year behind me, and then I tend to take a little bit of time to be present and ask myself what exactly I'm looking for before I look at 2024. The primary promises I made to myself and to you in 2023 was that I would endeavor to be more consistent about the channel, more consistent about my clients and trainings and getting workbooks out. And unfortunately, that just really didn't happen. And a lot of the reason with that had to be financial circumstances. A lot of our community builders were getting laid off. It wasn't a good time for consultants, and it certainly wasn't a good time for employees. In the wake of that, our biggest brands in the community space not only reneged a bit, but they also reduced their teams and spent a lot of time trying to recoup the losses. And honestly, this year wore a lot on my mind. I was very jaded on community. That doesn't mean that my love and admiration for the community building space was reduced in any way. In fact, it became more extreme. I started pivoting away from this notion of I need to get clients and this YouTube is intended for a business to asking myself, do I actually want to commit to a very strong message about what needs to change in the community space? In other words, I lost focus on what mattered in 2023 for my business and the financial and the monetary impact, but I gained a newfound love for the mission of building the social science of community. See, I've always had this utmost dream since I graduated college, since I started a nonprofit in 2012. We need to produce a better virtual world. And the only way to do that is to make sure that I was capable of impacting as many virtual spaces as possible. I thought that the answer to solving that problem was going to be consulting. Since then, I've discovered that my place isn't exactly there. Because I focus so much on the social science, the anthropology, the sociology, the psychology of community building, it makes more sense for me to just go all in on co-iterative learning and teaching together. So in 2023, I promised to be more consistent. I promised to have more workshops. I promised to have more workbooks. No, I think that I just need to bring high quality content to you on this channel. So I had to think to myself, if my brand is going to be primarily on the social science and the academics, then what exactly is that going to look like? As with all creative life design, you really have to start by asking yourself what exactly you want. What exactly I want. What I settled on was taking the long view, asking myself what research, what content, what academic resources can I use in order to create a more stable community industry? And instead of going to each individual virtual world, why not just provide the resources and the information to all of you, and opportunities just like that kind of presented themselves. I'm writing a book which has been incredibly insane, The Social Science of Building Community Culture. And off the back of that book, I have been given an incredible opportunity to go to Melbourne in order to run off the back of the social science structures that I'm building into the diversity, equity, and inclusion of our online spaces. Now, uniquely, the topic of the PhD going into 2024 is not going to be about minority developments, because I don't think that that's going to be helpful in the long run for building a better virtual world. See, I was primarily influenced by Peter Block's The Structure of Belonging, where he had a specific chapter about the Phoenix Place. See, he told a story about a mental health facility that was really struggling to connect and manage the people who were there. It was a women-only clinic, and one of the primary ways that they recovered that environment was by becoming more community-centered, more associative. They started by creating a council specifically made up out of the people who were receiving assistance at that mental health facility. The inpatients were placed onto a council in order to run and decide the activities and the way that they needed to heal for themselves. They exclusively chose to forego any form of federal or state funding because this explicitly went against the policies, and they absolutely thrived. It worked so well, a completely different approach to mental health within the United States. But then the primary director who was running this whole program left. And what happened? It dilapidated. As the burden of remuneration came into place, the idea that the people who are funding the program become more distant, as the people who are maintaining this council program had devolved, so too did the underlying culture and the approach that maintained the medical health facility. The program in and of itself was being propped up by active key stakeholders, but those key stakeholders, once they lost that power, ended up causing the program to move back into the status quo, or the dominant context. They started accepting state funding again, everything returned to normal. The council ended up reverting to this very boring, very basic council approach, where there were a whole bunch of pieces of red tape and standard facility practices that were put into place, and they lost the thing that made the Phoenix Place special. This is the concept of the dominant context, and when DEIB programs are implemented in a lot of communities, there's a lack of structural development that changes on all levels of the socio-ecological scale. In other words, we need to be making these changes not just on a personal level or a programmatic level inside of an organization, but we need to be making them on state and federal levels, and that's really hard. So my PhD is going to lean on the structure of cultural development in our online communities, what that book is, into how exactly do we make sure that these programs not only institute themselves to create safer identities for minorities, neurodivergent people, LGBTQ individuals, how do we take it one step further and make sure that all of our community programs are changing the status quo, the cultural developments that apply inward pressure, so that all of the key stakeholders who are involved in those programs aren't so stressed and don't burn themselves out so much trying to implement those programs. So in 2024, I am committing to just this one thing, right? I'm asking myself, can I build this book on the structure of community building? Ask you to implement that structure of community building, and then walk through a longitudinal study of you developing these programs to really ask what programs are most capable, most efficient, and most long-living to actually change the culture for minorities without having to resist it and maintain it so heavily. So to do this, again, we've developed a Patreon. We've completely changed the Discord to be more co-iterative in nature. And I've shut down the entire consulting portion of my business to focus on the book, the PhD, and this YouTube channel right here. So make sure that you subscribe to be part of creating a better virtual world. Especially the comments section and the community tab right here on YouTube are going to be some of the most crucial and critical places for you to engage in this conversation and create better virtual spaces. In short, 2024 is going to be all about that long-term learning. So if you're committed to my same dream, creating a better virtual world, make sure that you connect watch the next video that we have in this line, and watch this video to see how the PhD and the book actually are going to work. Speaking of, I also want to say a special thank you to our Patreons. This is a short list for now, but let's be honest, I want 30 names scrolling on this by the next several videos, and that's going to make the long-term capacity for us to research a better virtual world possible. Thank you so much to our current Patreons, especially to Jen Junod, who was so gracious as to accept an underwriting position. You can check out her channel as well. I will see you in the new year, and I could not be more hyped for it.